Good morning. And Dimitra, thank you. You're always a very, very difficult act to follow, but you do very well. You know, Dimitra has put this meeting together with her committee, as you all know, and I told her the other last evening that she probably has given this at least 120% of her time, and I think the success of the meeting attests to her hard work. And on behalf of all of the organizations that are involved, I'd like to express our thanks. Very well done. I was given several assignments this morning. One is called housekeeping. My wife ought to hear about this because I don't do any of this at home usually. And part of the housekeeping is talk a little bit about what you're going to do and what some of the rules are that we hope to follow. And I hope that you will agree with me that we can be expeditious in getting our work done and accomplish as much as we can. Dimitra took you through our agenda, and most of this morning up until 12:30 we're going to have our various presentations, and thereafter we're going to split in groups, workshop groups, and we're going to have a working lunch. And we're going to have sort of an informal discussion in these workshops, and you'll be given in each workshop some questions that you need to discuss and look for answers. And we hope that during this discussion you stay on your respective agendas in order that you could move right ahead and really come out with some real thoughts and programs for us. And we have some easels and want some sheets, and if you would, as you discuss major subjects, make some bullet point entries into these sheets, so therefore when you conclude with your workshops, which is I believe at 2:15, we then will go and have each of the chairpersons for those groups give a short 10-15 minute dissertation on what you talked about and what are some of the things that you think that we ought to consider as moving forward with in regard to solving that crisis which we do have in our church today. And finally, we're going to spend 2:30 to 4 p.m. where you will participate, you will react to what you've heard. We want to hear from you, because the only way that we're going to solve this problem is working together. So we need your input, we need your understanding. If we can help you, you can help us. I think we're going to reach our goal. So basically that is our format. Dimitra mentioned this, and I want to verify it, that we hope that you wouldn't ask questions during the formal presentation, so we move right ahead. We need to be out of here approximately 4 o'clock. We have planes to catch and things of that nature, and we're going to give you plenty of time to ask your questions. We're not going to cut you short. This is a two-way communication which we're trying to put forth. And but I would like to respectfully recommend, though, that your questions would not exceed about 3-minute duration. We're not going to time you, but if you do that, we'll give everybody a chance to talk, and we'll allow you to ask as many questions for each individual as you'd like. But we could sort of follow that housekeeping. I think we're going to reach the finish line, and I think we're all going to be very satisfied and very happy with it. Okay, with that, I have to tell you that I am totally delighted to be here in Denver with you this morning for several reasons. I met some old friends, which always is very nice. And I'd like to spend just a few minutes this morning to explain to you about Orthodox Christian laity. There may be some questions in your mind. Who are we? Who are these people? Who are these rebels? But we've been around over 10 years. We've accomplished quite a bit. And not only accomplished quite a bit, but I think that we are somewhat accepted today by the hierarchy of our church as well as the laypersons. And but I'm going to talk about our missions and goals as an example, and then I'm going to define a little bit and address what is the crisis as we see it in the church and what we've done about it. So with that, I have to start saying the laity of the Orthodox Church tends to be reserved out of the sense of respect and are intimidated about expressing themselves concerning the issues of faith. However, they are outspoken on administrative and economic issues related to our local parishes. It is within this tradition of laity assuming responsibility that the Orthodox Christian laity was established over 10 years ago with the grace of the Holy Spirit and the dedication of individual Christians. OCL was born because of the great imbalance that developed in the shared ministry of the church. The church evolved to be a clerical church. The hierarchical church that is Orthodoxy is governed by speaking in truth and love, not by absolute commands and authority of the hierarchy. The mission of OCL is very simple. It is an educational ministry that assists the clergy, laity, and hierarchy, working together in synergy with the Holy Spirit and each other in a spirit of truth and love. Now let's talk a little bit further about our mission and goals. The Orthodox Christian laity is an independent, organized movement of the Orthodox Christian laity and clergy involved in Orthodox renewal in America. Celebrating our 10th anniversary OCL mission is to restore the strength, the role of the laity in the life of the church, and renew the apostolic lay ministry. OCL exists to be an advocate for Syndiconia, co-ministry, and to inform and illuminate the Orthodox faithful by providing awareness through its educational ministry. Let's look at some of the goals that we are talking here at OCL. First of all, to promote the Great Commission of Pentecost by action-oriented spiritual renewal and missionary programs. Next, educate the laity about its canonical role in the life of the church. Advocate the election of clergy and laity to national and diocese councils and assemblies. Promote the restoration of the role of the laity in the selection of priests, bishops, and all other ordained members of the church. I think this is something that we've given up through the years as laity. If you all remember, when we enthrone a bishop, when we bring up a new priest, what do we say? What do they ask us to say? Axios. That's our vote. And yet that vote is very superficial, because we really are not involved in the procedure and the input in the selection of our priest and our hierarchy. Advocate complete fiscal disclosure and accountability at the national, diocesan, and parish levels, with full active participation in fiscal governance at all levels. This is something else we've advocated, and I think we need to do more in this area. Encourage increased spirituality in the church through the expansion of outreach ministries. Advocate full disclosures on church problems and crises, regardless of how painful it may be. Support more sensitivity regarding the needs of parish clergy and the elimination of arbitrary treatment towards that clergy. Advocate restoration of the order of the lay diaconate for both men and women, and promote lay vocations for qualified individuals. And last, advocate meaningful lay and clergy participation in resolving the issues of canonical unity of various Orthodox jurisdictions in the United States under the spiritual guidance of the Ecumenical Patriarch. In OCL's 10 years of existence, we have published dozens of position papers in regard to the laity position in the church and our obligation in the administration of our church. We have met numerous times with the previous Archbishop Aravosis to discuss our concerns and to detail our positions on these many matters. Also in the past year and a half, we have met numerous times with Archbishop Spiridon to express our position, to volunteer our assistance. They asked us to prepare position papers, which we have done for Spiridon, which we provided in April 1997. And that position paper copy is on the desk behind you over here, and there's other literature which I'll refer to in a minute. Please help yourselves, free of charge. We'd like to have you take them with you. But unfortunately, all these meetings we had with the hierarchy, we were treated with some respect, but when we got through, nothing happened. As we say in Greek, it's for the eyes, just going through the motions. But we didn't get any conclusions and any correction to some of the problems we brought to their attention. And we're going to talk about some of these problems here in a minute. When we followed up, the answers normally were, well, we'll see, we're studying your proposals, delay, no conclusion. Several meetings were also held in Constantinople, or Istanbul, with His Holiness Bartholomew, and we were received very well. We had follow-up letters expressing his love and appreciation for what we're doing. We received his blessing, but once more, there was no actions. And frankly, there's been minimal output from the Patriarchate in regard to our problems, and we're going on as business as usual. OCL has held 30 open forums throughout this country, from east to west, north to south. We have spoke to thousands of people just like you. And we have great support. We have several thousand members of OCL. We'd like to see more. We'd like to see each of you join us if you so wish, if you believe in what we're doing. We need your support. We're doing this for all of us. We're doing this for the love of our church. No one is trying to destroy this church. We're trying to help this church. We want it to be around for our children and our grandchildren. And it may not be around as we know it, unless we do something different. We've compiled 7 position papers, and we published those in our book. And I have several copies of this book back at the table. We have some forms you could fill out. Project for Orthodox Renewal. There's 7 papers that have been written by laity, by clergy, and other scholars. And really, if you believe in Orthodox renewal, this must be a must on your list to read. I say we have several copies. We are selling for $12.95 at a great cost. We do have sheets out here. If we run out of copies, we'll mail them to you. But what is there in this book that I think you should be interested in? The 7 topics are, number 1, faith, language, and culture. Next, spiritual renewal. Third, Orthodox women and our church. Fourth, mission and outreach. Next, selection of hierarchy. And there we're going back to what I said. Let's just not say axios. Let's be involved with the process. Administration and accountability. And last but not least, Orthodox unity. We need to address in this country unification of the Orthodox Christians. We're all our little splinter groups, all doing our own thing. And I think that very few things I've seen in this country, and traveling through the years in regard to the subject, that, I think you have somewhat Orthodox unity here in your St. Catherine's Church. When I visited here several years ago, you don't just have Greek Orthodox, you have all the Orthodox together. I think that's important. My involvement with International Orthodox Christian Charities is a real pan-Orthodox kind of venture, and we do have just about all the Orthodox jurisdictions involved. And I think that we need to get our church to move in that direction. And it was moving in that direction several years ago. And now it has been stopped by the Patriarchate and the Archdiocese, and we need maybe to bring that back to the forefront. Let's look next about some of the events that we feel have created the crises that we're all talking about. The past several years, the hierarchy have consistently said one thing, but their actions are completely opposite. We are told, or read in the Orthodox Observer, that there will not be any change in the organization of our church in North America. But in a short time, unilateral actions are taken to change our diocese to metropolitanates. And why are they doing this? We only can suspect, but I think we're right, that we can have the metropolitans reporting directly to Istanbul. Then that gives the further control to the Patriarchate for the Church in America. And it has to do with money. It has to do with the richest group, richest diocese, archdiocese that the Patriarchate has, which is North America. And if we can control that, then we control the money. Our church should go beyond that. We should be more than that. What brought OCL to the position where they are today? And I'll mention quite a number of things. I don't know how familiar you are with a real estate deal that occurred here in the last 10 years. The Archdiocese had some property in New York valued at about $20 million. And through some negotiations behind closed doors, unknown to the Archdiocese Council, that land was sold for about half that amount to, of all people, the Director of Development for the Archdiocese. A real conflict of interest. A conflict of interest in most any corporation in the world. But this went on anyhow. But it goes on, it's worse than that. Because then in the 80s, when the real estate market was not doing real well, developers having difficulty, convinced the Archdiocese to cut that loan in half. And now we're down about $5 million for a $20 million piece of real estate. The OCL found out about this and brought it to the attention of the laypersons. Pretty soon, an attorney in New York got the Attorney General to get involved, got Price Waterhouse, a very distinguished firm, to go in and evaluate the records of the Archdiocese. And after this was all done, finally was agreed that this person that the property was sold to would have to come up with additional $6.9 million to be paid over 6 years back to the Archdiocese. These are the kind of things that are going on. And yet during this period, just about every year we have $1 million deficit in the budget of the Archdiocese. $1 million. And it goes on and on and on. And yet we take valuable property and we try to give it away for less than 25% of its value. That's just one of the many things. Ever go to a Clergy Laity Congress? Did you ever see the dictatorial type of way that we operate? Did you ever see shutting off the microphones? This happens on and on. Now there's good that comes out of that, because I think the laity and the clergy realize what is happening in the administration of our church, and they don't like it either. The clergy don't like it anymore. We have clergy that are members of OCL, several bishops, may I add. So we do have a founding. But what goes on in the Clergy Laity Congress is not a real business-like environment. As an example, when you have a finance committee meeting at the Clergy Laity Congress, almost never does it start on time. It could be a half hour, hour late or more. And then when you come to the meeting, you have a room that's too small for all the participants, and some people are out in the hall. And then, by the way, we don't have enough time to go through the budgets. We want a rubber stamp approval because we have to go to the next social event. And this goes on and on and on. OCL has tried to change this. And we get in front of the Congress, and many of our members are involved with the church, and their directors and presidents of our parishes. And they have put through resolutions, and they've made the point that this ought to be a legislative body of our church, and they should spend their time not socializing, but getting the job done. And we're trying to move towards a direction. We probably have done better, but those meetings are still not democratic or not being held as they should be. And of course, there's no accountability in the church in regard to finances. And as I said earlier, the budgets are always unbalanced, and that's okay. It's business as usual. And the other thing that happens, ever hear about threats to our clergy? Well, that's happening with our high art. It's happening in California, it's happening in Savannah, Georgia, it's happening around this country, where we threaten that we're going to defrock them, or we threaten that we're going to take away their pension. We're supposed to be a church of love. I'm not sure that's thought of love. Another thing that's happened, how about the unilateral change of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America? You know, now we've excluded Canada, Central America, and South America. All we have now is Archdiocese of the United States. That was done unilaterally, and once more, it never got to Clergy Laity Congress. It was just done. The Synod of Bishops has been destroyed by eliminating the bishops who comprise the Synod. So we don't have Synod of Bishops anymore. This is part of moving our church back to Constantinople, I believe. That's my impression. Special regulations provide for the Archbishop to appoint only 31 members of the Archdiocese Council. And this came about, by the way, I believe, in the Clergy Laity Congress about 3-4 years ago in New Orleans. This was approved by Clergy Laity Congress. It went on to the Patriarchate. He sanctioned it, became part of our regulations. It's never been put into effect. And this year, Archbishop Spiridon went ahead and appointed in excess of 160 people, I believe it was 166 people, to our diocese council, not following the regulation whatsoever. And what happens then? once these 160 some meet, the same body that's illegal in meeting, by our own regulations, votes to amend the regulations. Remember one thing, only the clergy, laity, Congress can change the regulations of our church. And this was done at the Archdiocese Council level by an illegally constituted body. These are the kind of things that are going on. Then, of course, and Valerie's going to tell you more about this, you know, there's an unfortunate incident that has occurred this last year, and actions that were taken in regard to an alleged sexual harassment act that was perpetrated at Holy Cross. This thing was really handled poorly. You're going to hear quite a bit about it this morning. And I think that we need to speak out and try to rectify the damage that's been done by the firing and by the relocation of some very, very top clergy and president of the college. And I'll let Valerie say that. I won't get into it very, very much more. This is just a little thrust and summary of the kind of things that are happening in our church. There is a crisis, and it is very, very serious. We better address it. Many laity, and yes, some clergy, have asked OCL for assistance to address this crisis. People sense that OCL is the only group which is already organized, we're mature, been around over 10 years, and is able to act. Since September of 1997, Orthodox Christians have met in groups such as this in various places throughout this country, in Boston, in Baltimore, in Dallas, Texas, Chicago, Cleveland, California, Los Angeles, in Oakland, now in Denver, and early next month we're going to be in Seattle. And what we're doing is educating, bringing you up to speed so you understand the problem. But more importantly, we are trying to get input as to what you think we ought to be doing to help solve the problem. And you're going to hear about some of the things we are doing already because of the outcome and the output and the end product of these kind of meetings. Here's the kind of questions that we try to address. And this has just happened to be the Chicago part, which I was very involved in, of course. Number one, question the validity of appointment of 166 members to the Archdiocese Council. That's a very critical thing. Because what we're doing, we're stacking that group with appointees, and that group are making decisions for you and I, and we have no representation in those decisions. That's what the Boston Tea Party was all about during the founding of this country, if you remember. Change of our diocese into 3 metropolitanates, and only one archdiocese, indicating that charter was changed without following the uniform parish regulations and procedures. That's breaking the law. No further changes by hierarchy without due process. Consideration of withholding of archdiocesan assessments. What are we saying there? Well, if we're not going to be heard, we're not recommending today maybe we ought to do that. But if we're not going to be heard, what if I gave my $100 a year, whatever that amount is, what if I take half of it and we set up an account and put it in the account and give the other half to the church for operating expenses and say, until we are heard, this escrow account is going to be held. And as soon as we are heard and we start changing our ways, then the money will be available once more for the hierarchical usage. It's something to be considered, something to think about, and I'm not advocating it yet, but I think it ought to be on the burner. Administrative unity of all Orthodox jurisdictions. Let's talk about unifying the Orthodox Church. There aren't many of us individually, but many, many more of us if we unite together. And there's strong consensus to maintain the current progress that is going on in this country in regard to that. Committee to be formed to meet the Patriarch this last November when he was in the United States, and of course we never were given that appointment. OCL seeks parish council support for these resolutions. Discussions of organizing a national association of parishes to act as a vehicle to express concern to the Archbishop. We have come up with the thought in early meetings that we need to make sure that we organize our parishes so that we can speak in one voice, and maybe then we would be heard. In regard to that, there has been, the OCLs act as a catalyst in trying to move ahead to try to get to address these problems of the crises. And OCL cannot totally do the job on their own. We recognize that for several reasons. First of all, OCL is a pan-Orthodox organization. We have others in our organization and our board of directors that are not Greek Orthodox. And therefore, to spend 100% of our time talking only about the Greek Orthodox problem would probably not be appropriate. OCL, of course, is also an educational ministry and not just an advocacy group. And we educate by our publications, as I said before, and by putting on meetings of this nature. And of course, OCL resources, although they're somewhat large, but nevertheless, they're limited if we're going to expand too quickly and go too far. In other words, we can't be all things to all people. Thus, when the new national organization, Greek Orthodox American Leader, G.O.A.L, was founded, OCL was asked to create a liaison with this new organization. OCL accepted this role with G.O.A.L. OCL is not incompatible with the missions of G.O.A.L. In fact, G.O.A.L satisfies the Resolution 8 that I just mentioned that we had in our earlier meetings, which makes reference to the churches getting together and working together as a nation of concerned Orthodox Christians. OCL has become a liaison group of the G.O.A.L. and considers itself the think tank in regard to G.O.A.L. There are 7 OCL board members that are already involved in the organizing committee of G.O.A.L, so we are very much involved. G.O.A.L has decided to meet in Chicago next month during the same time we're having an OCL board meeting, which is March 20th and 21st in Chicago. We'd like, if you can, to attend. I think it's very important. I think you're going to be well informed. And if you do have interest, please ask Dimitros. She can help you in regard to further information and how you can get reservations made. You should very definitely consider to attend. I apologize for taking so much time, but in the true spirit of OCL mission, we wanted to educate you in regard to the serious church crises. In closing, I pray that our Father who art in heaven, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, and deliver us from evil. Amen. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
I'm pleased now to introduce Stephen Angelides, who has been employed by the state of California as an administrative law judge since 1992. He lives in Moraga, California, a suburb of Oakland. He has been married to Thalia Trigas Angelides for 13 years, and they have 3 children, ages 9, 6, and 3. Steve and his family are members of the Greek Orthodox Cathedral of the Ascension in Oakland. The pastors are Father Thomas Paris and Father Aristotle Damascus. Mr. Angelides served as the president of the parish council in 1994 and 1995, and as secretary of the council in 1993. He began writing for the Voithia website as an outgrowth of his efforts to help inform the members of his own parish of the crisis facing the Greek Orthodox Church in America. As the crisis grew, he became more active and eventually was invited to join the Voithia board. His motivation for being involved in Voithia is to protect and defend the church his parents helped to build, and to save the church for his children. Denver is the 4th open forum on the crisis in the church in America at which Stephen has spoken, having previously spoken in Los Angeles, Oakland, and Dallas. He is a member of the G.O.A.L National Steering Committee.